Welcome to Arcade Cast, the best place to chill with your friends, get your gaming goodness every Monday. My name's Dylan White, and joining me on the couch this week, Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here on the couch for gamers by gamers.
Well, now I have to insert the clip here, don't I? Because there are such stupid. I'm inserting the clip. Welcome to the blooper reel early in the show. Fuck it.
You know, if Kieran was here, he'd be like, "Oh, this is the 17th intro to this show."
Welcome to Arcade Couch, the best place. What do I say? You know what? I'm going to tell you the truth. What nearly just came out of my mouth, and then it's a quick story. Right? Here's my quick story. Yeah. I nearly just said, "Welcome to Arcade Couch, the best place for gamers by gamers," and it's because I was listening to this fucking podcast today. That was about the history of good games.
Was that their saying? I can't remember. It's been so long.
Yeah, welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was a podcast on the. You should listen to it. Actually, it's pretty good. It's feed. The feed is called Gameplay. One word. Wow. And it's the latest episode.
Good get.
Yeah, all right. And the latest episode, season 1, episode 14, titled "Good Game," goes for an hour and a half. And it's like just a nicely produced. Like doco podcast thing. It was quite good. Well, Mark, I catch best place. Oh, why are you? I can't get out of head now. Well, I hope you enjoyed the blooper reel that I was probably going to cut out 10 seconds of, and now I think I'm just going to include that whole fucking thing because, yep. All right. Today on the show, Four Corners Report is stirring up trouble. The first games nominated for the Tribeca Festival, what used to be called the Tribeca Film Festival, as you know.
Tribeca, yeah.
Now it's just the Tribeca Festival because they're doing games for the first time. So we've got nominees for that. That's pretty cool. League of Legends anime coming soon. We've got a little teaser trailer for it. And Resident Evil Village is out. I've played it. I've got a review. Let's get into that first. So, Resident Evil Village or Resident Evil 8 Village, Resident Evil Village.
Resident Evil Tall Lady.
Resident Evil Lady D. Resident Evil I Love Vampires and...
I see.
Sexy girls.
The Mummy Milkers horror game. That's what I've seen it described as.
Mummy Milkers horror game. Sure, I like that. Whoever coined that tag. Yep. Good one. So, got a review up at ExplosionNetwork.com. Gave it a 9 out of 10 on the Explosion Network scale. If you have... I'll straight out. Here's how I'm going to start my discussion on this game for this here podcast. If you haven't played 7, because I've seen this question a lot in the last 24 hours, for some reason, all on Twitter. If you haven't played 7 and you want to, because I think everyone's asking this question because they liked the Lady D stuff, Tall Vampire stuff, and they want to play this one, but they never played any of the others. They're like, oh, I'm into that sexy vampire shit. So you want to play this one, but you've never played the others. Could you play it? Yes. If you only want to get into you can play it and not care about the overarching story of Ethan, which is the main character in the Resident Evil universe at large, and you can just enjoy it on the surface level of it's just weird monsters, shit, there's a vampire lady, there's werewolves, what the fuck else is going on?
You could just watch a recap video, I'd assume, and you'd be...
Or, yes, when you start the game, it says, would you like to watch a recap video of Resident Evil 7's events? And you can watch that, it goes for like 2-3 minutes or something like that. And that sums up the events of that game for you perfectly. Do you need to have played all 6 Resident Evils prior to that? No, not really. This game, more than 7, tries to, without spoilers obviously, this game more than 7 tries to tie this Ethan trilogy or whatever they're doing into the larger Resident Evil universe, but it's primarily just, if you want to get the most out of this, it's mostly connected to 7. And 7 was a pseudo, not a reboot, but like 7's like, a good entry point for Resident Evil.
Yes.
Because it was, for the most part, it had absolutely nothing to do with Resident Evil.
It was Resident Evil, the next generation.
Basically, right? Yeah. Let's go with that. Yeah, sure. Shout out to Degrassi, I guess. Yeah, so that's the most fun. So this game is, and I'm going to dodge spoilers as much as I can, even though, like, if you want to play 7 without knowing anything about, I'm doing 7 spoilers here, kind of. So this game starts with Ethan, his wife, his newborn baby, They're all living a happy ever life following the events of 7, where Ethan had to save Mia. You can tell I mental blanked on her name there for a second. That's why I said wife. Saved Mia in the last game from a household of evil cannibals and all sorts of other assortment of things. And then the game starts with, and this may sound like as a spoiler, however, this is in the trailer, the first trailer, and it's also one of the things that they clearly tell you in the hashtag emails code provided by Capcom. In the email for embargo stuff, they say you can say this, which is the game starts with Chris Redfield showing up, shooting Mia a bunch of times in the face, and then taking off with the baby and taking you along for a ride, and then shit goes fucking crazy, and you end up at a middle of buttfuck nowhere. You don't really know where you are. You wake up, everyone's missing, and you're in this like gothic European fucking Scandinavian inspired village where there's werewolves wreaking havoc everywhere. There's like the few remaining people you can find in the village are like screaming for their life, trying to hide and save their lives. There's a castle overlooking everything, and you'll know what's up with that because you've watched the trailers to this. And as we've already said, Lady D, and I say Lady D because saying Lady Dimitrescu, I think, or Dimitrescu, yeah, see, Lady D is up in there waiting for you. So this game is broken up into kind of 4 or 5, I guess, main sections to it. It's all connected by this sort of hub world or hub connecting area, which is the town where you start. Obviously, the castle, spoiler, is like one area, level, whatever you want to call it, and that's ruled by Lady D, and then there's a bunch of other areas that are ruled by different people. And that's sort of how this game's breaking up. Each core villain in the game rules their own sort of sector of this land, and Ethan has to go through them all for reasons I can't really say because he needs things from them for story reasons, and of course along the way he has to fight all manner of different things and stuff like that. Now I really like this one. It's not as scary as 7 because 7 had that whole like you were constantly getting chased, like that whole opening of that game where you're creeping around the house and Jack's chasing you with the fucking chainsaw or whatever it is, and the axe and stuff, and you just think that you're going to get your face eaten off, and it's a house full of cannibals. Like it's literally a Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game stuff. Like all of that is just really fucked up and scary because it's more real too at the start of the game. Like it just seems like it's a more realistic horror vibe or whatever. This game is more in line with Resident Evil 4, which I feel like most people would love hearing because that's the sort of beloved darling of the Resident Evil franchise. And in a lot of ways, it's the way in which it moves between different types of horror is sort of similar to that game as well. Like all Resident Evil games have slowly over the years, to the point that people got sick of them, but slowly over the years introduced more and more action to them. And the height of that was sort of Resident Evil 5, which, and then everyone talks about how much they hate 6. I've never played 6, but they just full of action. So now what they're trying to do, I think, because 7 ended with a high octane, like a lot of shooting and action sequences as well. And that was probably my least favorite part of the game. This game has a lot of action too. It also has a lot of horror. And I think this game just does a lot better job at mixing and matching the different types of scares or action or whatever it wants to go through. So I can't like spoil every area. But for example, when you start the game and you're in the village with the werewolves, that's sort of actiony because you're doing a lot of shooting. You're shooting the werewolves. However, you always kind of seem to have, and I think this is built into the game where, I don't know, maybe if you only have 2 bullets, the werewolves will die in 2 bullets, whereas if you have 8, they'll die in 4. Like, I feel like the game sort of plays around how many bullets you have to try and make it always seem like you need to shoot more bullets, because headshots don't automatically kill the werewolves like they would be zombies. Like, it always seems to take a few bullets. But you always seem like you barely have enough ammo, and that sort of keeps you on the edge of your feet. And of course, if you like walk around this village, a werewolf bursts out somewhere, or you hear it like growling or whatever, like that's fucked up. There's this intense scene very early in the game where there's like a lot of werewolves, and straight away when that happened, I was like, man, fuck this game. Fuck this game. This is fucked. I don't even like this. It's not really scary. It's just like, what do I do? Like, you're just running around Like, what the hell am I supposed to do here? When you get to the castle, and I don't know if this counts as a proper spoiler, but when you get to the castle, that is the sequence of the game that's most like the house sequence of Jack or like the Mr. X sequence in Resident Evil 2 Remake. So that's the part of the game where you can be trying to make your way around the castle. You can be trying to solve puzzles and do what you need to do. And meanwhile, you've got both Lady D and her daughters, her 3 vampire daughters, following you around, popping up at different times, sort of just stalking you. And that's probably my favorite part of the game, even though it's kind of scary or whatever. It's kind of silly at the same time too, because like Mr. X is funny because he'll just like burst through shit. You know, like he's a tanky dude wearing a trench coat and a bowler hat or whatever the hell he wears. And he would just sort of burst through shit and be like, I'm here to fuck your day up. Whereas Lady D's, whatever, 9 foot something or other, whatever her actual size is. And because all the doors inside this castle are normal human size, whenever she comes through one, like if you run through a door, she doesn't like quickly come in after you. You've got like a couple seconds to get ahead of her because she'll have to bend down, open this door. And if the animation's quite high quality because you'll see like bend down, like go for this door and like straighten herself back up. And then she'll be like, oh man thing, there you are. And like chase after you. I'm like, bitch, you just took 10 minutes to get through the fucking door. Like I was already 10 minutes ahead of you, taking forever. Jesus. My second favorite area, I don't want to say out where everything is, but there's a level or one of the sections of the game that has like no combat. It very much seems like it's inspired by PT or that sort of horror. As I said, like each section of the game seems to be inspired or takes after a different type of horror. And of course they get into the more action horror stuff as well. But this one's like very PT where there's no combat. You don't need your guns. It's puzzles, several puzzles to solve. And it's mostly just around creepy vibes. Like there's constantly the noise of like someone kicking something over next to you, or you think there's something that's going to happen next to you, or someone could burst in at any stage. And that is the most fucked up section of the game as well. Like there is one point, and so this is the thing. I keep seeing people on Twitter ever since the game came out say there's one part in this game that's super fucked up and actually like one of the most fucked up things in Resident Evil. And I have no idea if it's the same section I'm thinking about, but there's one part in this game where I ran away from a particular monster in this section and I got into an elevator, and it's like one of those things where you get into the elevator and of course the elevator door just closes in time as this thing's chasing after you. And this thing's like just screaming in your fucking face. And I'm not going to say what it is, but it's just screaming in your face. And as the elevator door's going up, I reckon if you took a picture of my face on my TV, it was me sort of like pulling back, being like, I don't want nothing to do with that anymore. Thank you very much. And there's a part after that's also quite fucked up, just for a different level. But so that section is really good. Now, I don't think it's a huge spoiler to say, sort of teasing it anyway. The game gets more action heavy. The last level or areas a lot more action heavy. However, compared to Resident Evil 7, I actually really enjoyed this section and the action here, because in Resident Evil 7 you were fighting these like sort of goo monsters, molded monsters they were called, and it's on the ship, and because it's on a ship, it's sort of these just long boring looking hallways, like it's a ship. They just all look very similar, very the same, nothing to it really. And these molded would just appear at one end of the hallway. They'd come at you. There was no tactic to shooting them or how to take them down. It was just black gooey monster thing, shoot it before it reaches you so you don't die. And it kind of got boring pretty quick. Kind of lost the scare factor. The creatures that you end up fighting at the end of this game, again, a lot action heavy. You're doing a lot of shooting, a lot of ammo you'll go through, get a lot more guns, this sort of thing. However, all of the creatures look a lot more fucked up. I really like the design of them. And and there's several different kinds, they all require different tactics of how you have to take them down. So if you're not shooting them in the correct places, you're just not going to kill them, which means these fights become quite tense, because if you're fucking up shooting them in the wrong place, or the first time you ever encounter them, you have to figure out how to take them down. Like it just made the more action heavy sequence of this a lot more thrilling. Like I think this is how you do Resident Evil action horror properly, like where you're doing a lot of shooting, but I'm still on the edge of my seat because I'm like, fuck, how do I kill this thing? Like, You know, like there was a few times I was like shooting him in the incorrect spot, so I wasted half my ammo. And I'm like, how am I going to kill this? You know, like I'm only going to have to try and kill this thing with my knife. Like it's not jump scare horror, but it's just thrilling action, which is, yeah, I think that's how they do it. And that's what I kind of said in my review. I think this is the perfect mix of everything the horror fans, because I think there's different type of fans. There's people that enjoy Resident Evil 5 and 6 and that more action heavy stuff and not scary horror. And then there's the people that just want the more straight up scary Resident Evil stuff. And I feel like Capcom's kind of trying to meet in the middle for both worlds, and that's what they're always sort of trying to do. And for a while there, it seemed like that maybe they were just going to do new games that are action heavy, and then the remakes were going to be like more proper old school. But I feel like this game is them perfectly, or nearly perfectly, mixing it, the perfect pace and different types of horror action from both this franchise's history and other stuff as well. And all the villains are great. Like if I could talk about them in spoiler terms, I would, because there's one of them. I mean, one of them does seem like they're out of like a Metal Gear game or something. Like I thought this person was actually voiced by Troy Baker for a while, but then I got to the end credits and it wasn't. But fuck, it sounded like it was. Maybe that's because I'm just hearing Troy and everything. But he just has such a personality and like flair to the delivery of his lines, and it just very much sounds like it's some bullshit. The way he speaks is utter nonsense, but in the utter nonsense sort of way that you're like, did Hideo Kojima write you? You know, like like what are you talking about over there? So then there's only one villain I didn't particularly care for much, but there, I mean, between this person like Lady D and the main villain, who I keep making sure, even when I uploaded our video, so I did a boss guide video. If you need help, check that out. There's an article, explosion.com. Even for my video I uploaded with the last boss fight, I called it the final boss fight because I always feel like, because they've revealed the 4 villains, like in a trailer. They show them all in a room together, so it's not really a secret to say there's 4 like main pillars of these villains, and you can see them all in a trailer already. They're there. I don't think they revealed their names or what all their powers are or anything like that, but they're there. I feel like if you to say this is the final villain, then anyone's theories about who it might be, or, you know, like this sort of thing, then you're spoiling what it is if you say it's someone else kind of thing. So I just made sure not to call it that. So it has a crazy ending, has an after credits scene. So if you're playing it while listening to this, hope you're enjoying it. When you get to the credits, don't walk away anywhere. There is an after credits scene that sets up the future of the franchise in quite a interesting way. Let's put it that way. So there you go. If you want to read my full review, explosionnetworks.com. That's explosionnetwork.com. And then the other thing I've got a review up for, and I won't talk about this much. If you want to hear me talk about this game, I talked about it for 40 minutes on last week's episode of Platinum Explosion. So go listen to that if you want to hear me talk about this. But my review for Returnal is up. I gave the game a 9.5. It's currently my game of the year, the GOTY, as the kids say, I believe. The gotcha. Remember Gotcha? That was the guy that did that song, wasn't it? Wasn't there somebody? No, was that him?
Somebody that I used to know.
Yeah, there we go. That's Kieran. Somebody I used to know. So yeah, this just quickly. This is the PS5 exclusive from Housemarque, where it's basically a third-person action shooter combined with Metroidvania elements, combined with roguelike elements, combined with a pseudo sort of horror game at times, maybe not really. It's the one that people have been talking a lot about difficulty because it's quite hard and you die a lot and these sorts of things. It's really, really good. I kind of can't stop playing it. I'm chasing the platinum at the moment. I'm having some trouble with that, but that's its own thing. Action-wise, it's just can't get enough of it. PS5-wise, it's got all the bells and whistles that make the best use of that console aside from Astro's Playroom. So if you've got a PS5, I really feel like just don't be scared of this game. Look, buy it, return it if you hate it. I don't know. Do what you got to do. Just I feel like everyone should try this game. Even you, Ash. Just got to fucking, steal a copy from somewhere. Do what you got to do. But yeah, I'm really loving it. Go listen to that episode of Platinum Explosion. My one gripe with it at the moment is I did mark it down because I feel like I couldn't ignore the technical issues with that the game has had. At first, they were only minor, but between them deleting people's saves accidentally recently, and then the lack of a save feature, and then people losing progress because the game updated, and then the game would close in the background, and they would lose their progress. Like all of that sort of adds up. So yeah, like
hard to defend.
It's hard to defend that. So maybe it would have got a 10 if it didn't have all that, because honestly,
so in like 3 weeks' time, it could be a 10.
No, I said maybe because I still feel like there's a couple of things that I could, like maybe it's not quite a 10, but I definitely feel like that's my major issue that's worth mentioning is the technical stuff, which from all accounts it seems to have been resolved at the moment, because they pulled back the most recent patch to whatever the last one was before that, and they're working things out. So if you go buy it after you've listened to this and play it, go read my reviews. All right, let's get into some news. There is a lot happening with this Epic versus Apple. Epic? Imagine. That's what's going to happen when Epic buys Apple. No, Apple buys Epic. Whatever. They got all the money each between them. Who buys who? Who would know? So there's a lot happening with this trial. We was discussing before recording. There's just too much to sort of cover. But yeah, if you've been keeping up with that, it's sort of crazy. But the one thing I do want to talk about, which is this article by Polygon. They write, here's what Epic Games Store paid for those free games. If you've ever wondered what it actually costs when one of those big video game services are giving away free games, well, the bill for Epic Games Store was $11.6 million for the first 10 months of its existence. The information came to light on Monday as part of Epic Games' lawsuit versus Apple Computer. Writer and video game historian Simon Carlis said a spreadsheet showing 38 titles given away between December 2018 and September 2019 was accidentally published early as part of a trove of lawsuit documents and exhibits. The giveaways released during that period reveal interesting data points about how much Epic Games paid for the privilege to hand out those free games in an effort to lure in new users. The first game released as part of that promotional push, Subnautica, proved to be one of the store's most popular, with 4.6 million entitlements, netting Epic more than 800,000 new accounts. Subnautica was also one of the most expensive buyouts for Epic at $1.4 million. That worked out at a cost of $1.74 per new Epic account, which would appear to be a solid return on Epic's investment here. Other games like Super Meat Boy, Rhyme, For Honor, World of Goo, and the Jackbox Party Pack earn Epic new users for about 50 cents each, in part because Epic paid far less, between $45,000 and $63,000 for those older titles than it paid for games like Subnautica, Mutant Year Zero, $1 million for that, or the Batman Arkham series, which it paid $1.5 million for. Metro 2033 Rexodus is listed as costing Epic $0 to buy it, but that apparent anomaly seems to be a result of Metro Exodus' Epic Game Store 1 year exclusivity. So apparently they didn't pay extra for that, which is interesting. But
no, that's Metro Exodus, Metro 2033 Redux, not Metro Exodus.
Yes.
So I assume they threw that in
as part of the deal.
Part of the deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they didn't pay. They just paid for the exclusive of getting 1 year store exclusive on that game, and they chucked in 2033 as a freebie, or as part of the negotiation.
It's like something to promote the game, which would have been a smart thing to do. Yeah.
So what do you? Because the thing I found interesting, because we never really see these stats, probably for good reason, and we weren't supposed to see these, so. That's the other thing. These were some of the documents that were supposed to be sealed, but they got unsealed and published online. So, but too late now. But yeah, I just find it quite interesting because we always talk about PlayStation Plus, Xbox Live, Game Pass, like all these sorts of things. Like,
yeah,
I think the wording in that article that I never really thought about, that kind of explains to me how, I guess, as a business they would look at these sorts of things, is where they're like, we paid 1.4 for Subnautica, but that got us a new subscriber at $1.73 or whatever it was per subscriber. I'm like, that must be how they're actually looking at it. Like, did our money, like, how did our money go? And I guess that's how Game Pass would look at it too. They would have a similar sheet to this, surely, where they're like, we paid for this game for Game Pass. We paid X amount of dollars for it. this person, because they can see all the data obviously, and they can see if someone becomes a new subscriber and the first game they play is this, or maybe they can even go, well, this person is a new subscriber and one of the 5 first games it played this, so that was probably a big part of it. And they can sort of boil down this information as to, well, we spent X amount of thousands of dollars on this game, but that actually got us X amount of subscribers. That worked out as pretty good for us. You know what I mean? Like, do you take away the same sort of stuff from this, or what do you think?
Yeah, I guess the other thing to take away with it is maybe these games. Obviously, these games are quite old. A lot of these games have been out for a few years, but they seem to be not paying very much for them. You know what I mean?
No. Well, most of them are old, yes.
So they're good. I guess from that extent, they're like, oh, we'll take the payout because we're probably not. We're not going to sell. Let's see here, Super Meat Boy. If they're selling it at like $20 a pop, what's that? You'd have to sell 25,000 copies to make what they did. Oh no, 2,500 copies to get the money they did for this one promotion. So
I guess but the other way they would be looking at it is X amount of new subscribers at 50 cents, but then hoping that...
No, I'm thinking from the game developer's point of view. It's like, oh, this is a game that we made the bulk of our money on already.
Yeah, we weren't going to sell it to that many people. We weren't going to sell it to...
We're happy to do it for that. So then that leads me to think, what is Game Pass paying for these? Are they paying the similar sort of prices for games that are released straight away?
They'd be paying way more.
Are they?
They'd have to be paying way more, I reckon.
Are they paying just the Subnautica numbers? Or
I reckon they'll be paying at least Subnautica numbers, if not more. Subnautica's so high, it's weird how high that is, and I think that's just because it was the first game.
Yeah, probably.
Because the other thing it says here, like, percentage of new people to Epic, and 70% of new people joined Epic for the Subnautica. And the next highest...
Because it was the first deal.
Because it was the first deal, yeah, that's what I think. And a bunch of people were like, even amongst all that, oh no, Steam, like all that drama, a bunch of people signed up to get the free game. I know I did. I didn't play anything on Epic for ages, but I signed up, made the account, redeemed the free game. But the next highest one is Batman Arkham Collection, 10% increase for that. And that
is it Arkham Collection or just Night?
I thought it was the collection. Maybe it was just not. I actually can't remember. But either way, like 10% increase for that game shows that, and that was like
no, it's a series. Never mind.
There you go. That's like quite a high increase, and that was only that was towards the latter end of this year structure, like towards the end of this 12-month period. So that was definitely a lot more people. That's I like to imagine that 10% is a bunch of the people who were complaining about the Steam store, Steam versus Epic stuff, and then they put Batman up for free, and then a bunch of them were like, yeah, fuck Epic. In the corner, they're just like signing up, downloading Batman. Yeah. Can't help themselves. Yeah, so that's quite interesting though. Just to see naughty little statistics like that we're not actually supposed to see with our eyeballs, but enjoy that. More Division is on the way if you haven't had enough. Ubisoft dropped some interesting news today, writes Bleeding Cool, with a new free-to-play expansion game called Tom Clancy's The Division Heartland. The company revealed several plans for the franchise this morning, which include a major motion picture on the way, which we have notes on below. But the big reveal was Heartland, which, as you can see from the image, takes place within the timeline of The Division 2, but will apparently be its own separate story set apart from the events of the game. Development is being led by Red Storm Entertainment, which has worked on Tom Clancy's IPs in the past, including games in the franchise, so they know what's up with everything happening. All we know right now is that the game will be standalone experience available on PC, console, cloud platform sometime in 2021 to 2022. And blah, blah, blah. So the other thing is here. So in the blog post, it says, in the past 5 years, The Division has grown from a very ambitious project at Ubisoft to a world-renowned franchise, reaching 40 million unique players. That's actually a lot more than I thought Division would have had, to be completely honest. But we are very proud of what our teams have accomplished with its franchise, the amazing universe that they've created. The potential and depth of this enables us to explore new and exciting content that will please long-term fans of The Division and new ones alike. The Division 2 will be receiving brand new content as part of an update coming in late 2021. Ubisoft Massive with support from Ubisoft Bucharest? What's that? Bucharest? I don't know.
Bucharest.
Bucharest. Sure. Is leading the development of this new content that will include an entirely new game mode and new methods for leveling up, blah, blah, blah. And then they talk about the movie, which, in case you forgot, is coming to Netflix. Jessica Chastain and Jake Gyllenhaal apparently starring in that, if it ever actually becomes a thing. Inspired by the events of the original game, the film will be directed by Rawson Marshall Thurber. Additionally, The Division announcing an upcoming original novel. The story will be set after the events of Division 2 and will explore the outbreak affects different regions of the United States. I honestly, when I woke up this morning and saw this, I was like, is The Division? Like, do people care enough about that game's world, story, universe that they can expand on it in such a way that they're like, we're doing a spin-off called Heartland. We're doing new DLC for Division 2. We're doing a Division 2 mobile game. We're doing a novel. We're doing a Netflix film. Like, I've never heard anyone in my life say, man, you know the thing I love about The Division the most? It's lore, world, and characters. Everyone's just like, you know what I like about The Division? It's a fun shooter. Like, it's a fun third-person shooter to play with my friends. Like getting that loot. I played these games. I played The Division 1. Finished it. Platinumed it. I played The Division 2. Finished it. Didn't platinum it. Ask me one question about the story. You know what I'll say? I don't fucking know. Don't know. All I know is how the virus starts, which is basically COVID. If you go back and watch the opening video clip to The Division, it's actually disgusting how much it seems like it's COVID. Like, it shows all these people, like, it's like a terrorist attack or whatever, but they put the chemical or whatever, they put it on money, and then they spread it on Black Friday.
Smart.
And that's why it's Christmas consistently in the first game. Because the world goes to shit during Christmas. Because everyone goes out for Black Friday. They go, the money, the disease spreads.
Money gets spread everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, that was the setup for that game. So, dark shit. So I guess if you're into Division, if you're into Division's story, get excited for all of that.
You're acting like this Division movie thing is a surprise. It's been in the works since 2016.
No, I know we've heard about it. I said in case people had forgot, because we hadn't heard about it for...
Okay. Yeah, so they're on their third director now, so...
I mean, didn't they announce Jake Gyllenhaal and Jessica Chastain at the last E3 that we actually had? Like 2 years ago? I think
so. And then it was meant to be Stephen Gaghan, who was meant to direct. Then it was David Leitch. Now, obviously, Rowan Marshall Thurber, director of Witherbiller's Central Intelligence, the Skyscraper. So,
high bar.
Let that seed your
how do you go from David Leitch to
expectations?
Yeah, we'll see about that one. Polygon, here are the games nominated for the first Tribeca Games Awards. They wrote, the Tribeca Film Festival announced its official selection for the inaugural Tribeca Games Award on Thursday. The lineup includes a handful of hotly anticipated games and a few lesser-known ones as well. The nominees are Sable, Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, Harold, Hailbutt, Lost in Random, Norco, Signalis, The Big Con, and 12 Minutes. The festival, which is slated for June 9th to 20th, 2021 in New York City, marks a decade since Rockstar Games' LA Noire became the first video game ever to be honored as official selection at the 2011 festival. Asterisk on that. This is the first time they've had an official games category there. Now these titles will be in competition for the first Tribeca Games Award, which quote honors an unreleased game for its potential for excellence in art and storytelling through design, artistic mastery, and highly immersive worlds. Casey Belts, Vice President of Tribeca Games, said in a release that the 2021 selections, quote, showcase the potential for phenomenal storytelling in interactive experiences with characters and worlds that explore the deep connection we have with ourselves and the world around us. This year also expands events dedicated to video games at the festival considerably. In addition to Hideo Kojima, Jon Favreau will be joining the Tribeca Film Festival's games program, and there will be live outdoor performances of a selection of music from Rockstar Games' Red Dead Redemption 2 in New York City's The Battery, Additionally, Tribeca Games programming will offer digital experience as part of their Tribeca at Home virtual offerings for a portion of the festival, where fans play hands-on digital demos for emerging and established creators. So I really like all this, and it got me thinking when the nominees popped up this morning or whenever it was. It's kind of funny, like if you think about the way movies, like so often like if you listen to What Do You Want to Watch, listen to What Do You Want to Watch. By the way, listen to it. Like sometimes we'll be like a movie will get announced, right? We'll be talking about a movie, and I'll just go, I'm really excited to watch that because it had a lot of buzz at Sundance or something. You know what I mean? Like there's a thing with film where you have sort of these key film festivals, indie film festivals or whatever. Well, they're not even indie now, because like Quentin Tarantino will take whatever movie he wants to a film to try and win an award. You know what I mean? But like it's funny how films have sort of a festival circuit before they get to the major public, like world release most of the time, and then they'll have the Oscar circuit. So it's like a pre-release reward circuit, you know, like amongst the film festival sort of thing. Then there's like the world release, and then there's the Oscars / Emmy / whatever, all that sort of circuit. Whereas games we have a demo at E3, like I'm talking like before COVID, obviously, but would have a demo at E3. IGN and places could award it game of the show without even playing it. You know, like they could give an award to Cyberpunk off the video they watched as being the game of the show because it was the most interesting. Then no one hears anything about it for 6 months. It releases and then it wins like game of the year. Like it's just funny how different the selection and stuff is. So I don't know. This is really interesting, I think, to see if this goes over well and what that could potentially mean for games going forward. I guess like this sort of thing. Like I would love if say Kenna wins, for example. Say Kenna wins like best the Tribeca Games Award. Imagine going to pick up that game day one on the box art. It's got the little Tribeca logo. Like maybe it's a slightly different one to the one they have on DVDs if it's like the movie award. But imagine going to pick it up because you know when movies on the DVD they have like the Sundance, Tribeca, and some of the other ones if they ever win like the film festival awards. Imagine going to pick it up and it has like a little logo there, like winner of the Tribeca Games Award on the game on the game case day one. Like how fucking weird would that be? That'd be kind of weird. Yeah. What do you make of these nominees? What do you think of the Tribeca Games Award?
I mean, it's interesting. I'm just looking at now how exactly they're going to showcase these games because obviously it's simple with a film. You just stick people in a screening room, and they watch the film. It seems like you sign up for a designated time slot for each game where they'll release the demo. You can sign up through another thing and then play the demo for a certain amount of time. So I mean that's kind of interesting. Yeah, cool. Another way to get games out to an audience that maybe doesn't see it in the same light we do with the storytelling and the creative.
Yeah. Well, you're never going to see Call of Duty here. Is basically what.
No. All these games are quite story orientated from what we can tell.
Unreleased game for its potential for excellence in art, storytelling through design, artistic mastery, and highly immersive worlds. Like, very much reads as a... Look, is your game kind of like a movie? You know, like...
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, like, that's what our...
Yeah, and obviously some of these games have been on lists that we've been wanting to... Check games that we've actually wanted to play and check out, so this is a good opportunity to.
Yeah. When you think it's, like, you think about something like 12 minutes... Which, when they add who'd they add? Daisy Ridley. Was it Daisy Ridley and William Dafoe? Was that it? I think that was it.
No, it's James McAvoy, Daisy Ridley, and William Dafoe.
Okay, yeah. So it's funny because they bring them on and cast them for it to give it more of a like a Hollywood, like we got real actors, you know, voicing this shit now.
Yeah.
You gotta wonder how much that'll help it. Like a film festival circuit, you know. Got real actors. Not these game voice actors.
Yeah. I don't expect this to be a common thing at a lot of these festivals. But obviously, there's a ton of festivals every single year. But some of the big name ones, like obviously Tribeca, you would expect something like this at South by Southwest.
Well, South by Southwest does game things already, don't they?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean,
I don't think they have a strict game award.
Maybe Sundance.
Sundance would be
those
fucking.
Would probably the big.
Sundance would be.
Those would be the big three. You would think. So
look, in my scale, it's like Cannes, Sundance, Tribeca.
Yeah.
Does that seem right? Yeah. So
yeah.
And I don't just...
And probably Toronto's underneath that.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, that would sound right. So I think that's why
Actually, I'd probably put Toronto over Tribeca, but that's just...
Okay. Well, I could... Yeah, I think I could like...
I feel like a lot more... I feel like Toronto's like a big genre movie.
A lot of horror movies.
A lot of big... Like a big lot of like actual big production movies debut at Tribeca, Toronto. So.
Well, third or fourth. My point being, having the Tribeca Film Festival at a game thing isn't like a random smaller indie film festival. Like it's a for people who don't follow film who are listening to this. This is I think a substantial addition to a film festival to add a game section. Like it's not a big deal. Like it's quite a big deal. I think it's pretty cool. And to be the first nominees, all these developers for these games, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, it's very cool seeing the board of people like big involved. Kiki Wolkiff, head of Transmedia Entertainment. Oh, Halo Transmedia Entertainment. Sam Lake, creative director of Remedy. Hideo Kojima, the game creator. Jeff Keighley, Game Awards producer. Bing Gordon, co-founder of Electronic Arts. John Favreau, producer and director, and Nia DaCosta, director of Jordan Peele's Candyman.
You said all of that to lead up to that joke, didn't you? You said all of those names to lead up to that joke.
Yeah. Also, the idea of Robert De Niro playing some of these games makes me very happy.
Imagine that. What do I do? You looking at me, kid? Audio listeners, you just missed out on Ash's best visual Robert De Niro gag.
It's my impression of Dave Franco doing Here's
my impression of Dave Franco doing Robert De Niro. Yeah, sure. What a meta universe. PC Gamer writes League of Legends anime series Arcane is coming to Netflix this fall. League of Legends' first anime TV series Arcane is coming to Netflix. According to a new teaser trailer released today, it's the epitome of the teaser trailer though, so don't get too excited. It's only 19 seconds long, but it does give us our first glimpse of the show since it was announced in 2019. There's not too much to glean from the trailer, but it does prominently feature Jinx, one of League of Legends' most iconic champions. Her sister Vi also appears briefly, which reinforces speculation that Arcane will probably focus on their origin story, of the two in the dual mecha cities Piltover and Zorn. For those not tuned into League's complicated lore, Vi and Jinx aren't exactly great friends. Vi is basically a sheriff who wields two giant robo gauntlets, while Jinx is a slightly unhinged terrorist. Think Harley Quinn, but with more guns. So we've sort of been talking about, League of Legends expanding the universe a little bit lately and all this sort of stuff. So this was a really cool teaser, but I know we don't see much of it, but we get an idea of the art style and this sort of stuff. And I gotta say, I'm all about it. I think it looks really, really like the general look and feel of this. I can get behind. What do you think?
Yeah, it looks really good. Obviously, you only get a glimpse of it, but if they keep that kind of art style up, I mean, it's kind of reminiscent of cutscenes and that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's going to look pretty at the very least. So, good on Netflix.
I don't know how to describe it. It has like a...
It's like obviously a 3D.
Yeah.
Almost. Obviously, the comparison is because that it's just released on on Netflix, but the Kingsglaive Final Fantasy movie, the Final Fantasy 15, a very similar art style, like that kind of 3D.
I've watched it, but I honestly can't remember. So.
Realistic type, yeah, looking. But yeah, Netflix got both the big MOBAs. Yeah,
they got Dota and League. It's good shit. But again, I'm more keen for this one. I mean, look at this. The Dota one's like, we got a fantasy world with a dragon. I got my big broadsword, dude. I'm glad League of Legends didn't start with one of their characters that are more like in that sort of thing, because that would just be awkward.
Bit more different.
Yeah, they're like our first animated
Not
shows
the most generic character.
in like a I don't know, steampunk, cyberpunk cross. I don't know what.
Yeah,
steampunky type universe.
They could have had Garen as the first one.
Yeah, and that would have been like.
It's like
okay, it's a big dude with a sword. Good job, everyone.
Cool.
Yeah, but I'm keen. I didn't think this was coming until like next year or something like that. But
it was meant to be last year, but obviously COVID pushed everything.
Yeah, I thought it got pushed back way more though. I thought they were straight up like we've paused, like we can't do it. But I must have read into
so
it.
Late this year.
Like, good shit. Excited. Alex Walker over Kotaku writes, this is a huge deal. The industry reacts to Australia's new tax break for video games. After years of fighting, lobbying, and presenting international figures on the size and scale of Australian video game industry, the federal government has finally followed in the steps of the states to provide significant tax breaks for local video game productions. Along with the relief, many studios noted the announcement would enable them to hire more staff, invest more in the development, while competing on the global stage. The battle for federal video game funding has intensified in recent years as more and more advocates pointed out the vast potential of the video game industry in Australia and abroad. The COVID-19 pandemic also highlighted the social value of video games, and state governments have continued to enjoy huge success while helping fund the development of games like Untitled Goose Game, Moving Out, Void Bastards, Flight Control, The Gardens Between, Necro Barista, and more. Understandably, the local developers and publishers were ecstatic. Simon Boxer, the Aussie developer behind Ring of Pain, noted on Twitter that the move would make a huge difference to the amount of money local developers actually made, and whether they were working with publishers or not. Another developer also noted that the federal tax rebate was cumulative, so any developers benefiting from existing tax rebates, like those offered in South Australia, will enjoy the government's tax rebate as a bonus. And the article goes on to leak quotes about other people saying stuff. But so this was just a really cool piece of news to bring up. I brought up these sorts of stories over the years, different people complaining about or, sort of petitioning or whatever you want to call it about how the Australian government sort of fails the Australian games industry. And it was always quite odd because it's kind of known at this point that the games industry is sort of the biggest industry. Like, it's bigger than music. It's bigger than movies. It makes more money. So it's just always been weird how Australian government sort of just consistently turned a blind eye to that, even though there's like all this talent happening here. So 30% is quite a big chunk of change, I guess. So that's...
Yeah, I think it kind of puts it on par with the film and TV industry. So
yeah.
With their offsets and that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
very promising. Hopefully it means, potential for big studios to get opened up here from, like, obviously the big companies like they have in the past. It's kind of an incentive to... Obviously we've got a lot of talent here in Australia, so...
Yeah, the problem I think, or the growing problem has been a lot of talent in Australia, games industry scene, having to work on their small indie, it sounds like it's bad, but having to work on their small projects. But and maybe some of them want to do that, but for anyone who wanted to step up onto a AAA or AA sort of project, there wasn't a stepping stone for that here. So, I think the 30%, I think having this big increase into the games industry in Australia not only helps the indie developers, but it will also just in general bubble the industry as a whole, which, as you're saying, will lead to being able to have AA, AAA studios set up here or increase their size here, which means that the people who want to step into those industries and move out of the indie side of stuff, they can make those decisions without having to look at moving to a completely different country. Yeah. Which is, quite good for them, obviously. Which you didn't really have before. I mean, was it last year or the year before? No, I think it was only last year. That's when Sledgehammer opened there. It was Sledgehammer, wasn't it? Was it Treyarch? Fuck, I can't remember which one it was now. I swear it's Sledgehammer. I'm going to trust what I said first. They opened their Australian arm here, and that was like a big sort of... Was Sledgehammer?
Sledgehammer.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was last year, but they've got an Australian office.
Well, it was either last year or the year before. I just get very confused between last year or the year before because last year was...
No, it was
a blur.
Was it September 2019.
Okay, there you go. Close enough. At the end of the year. COVID happened shortly after. Fucking...
Yeah. It all blurs
together. It all blurs together. It's fine. So, yeah, but that was obviously a big one. So, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what this, what we're looking at in 12, 24 months from now, how this affects stuff. So, good shit. All right, and what we've been playing, I just want to talk a little bit about... Let's talk a little bit about Apex. Talk a little bit about Apex Season 9. Don't usually jump on here to do, the new season, let's talk about what's happening. But as we teased an episode or two ago, they added a brand new mode, which we played on stream a couple nights ago, twitch.tv/Explosion Network. So Apex Legends has added a mode called Arena, which is, it's as I described it before, but in case you missed it, it's basically Apex Legends' take on a CSGO style game or a Valorant game or whatever you want to describe those sorts of ones, like a more strategic shooter. At the start of each round, you have a set amount of money. You can then use that money to buy your character's abilities, health items, grenades, weapons, upgrade your weapons. You lose all of that between rounds. You then have to buy new stuff, but you get you get more money as the rounds increase. You get more money for killing enemies. So if you get killed, you can go up. It's the first to 3 wins, but you got to have a lead by 2, and you don't respawn or anything like that. That's basically the setup. Obviously, it's not the huge Apex Battle Royale maps. They're these sort of smaller contained ones, although they're still quite large. The circle moves in between rounds though, so they do shrink as time continues. So we played it for a couple of hours of what it was with Buddy Watson from Radio Watson. I don't remember, our score wasn't in the positive, but we got a couple wins. We got a couple more losses than we got wins, but it was a hard time, a hard learning curve. How did you feel about your time playing Arena? And just generally, like, even if you didn't love it, how do you think it fits into the game? And do you think it's still a good decision now that you've played it? Does it fit the Apex mold kind of thing?
Yeah, obviously it is quite different to the Battle Royale mode. Obviously, we took a couple of heavy losses to start off with, trying to get the hang of tactics and getting. It is very communication based. I feel it would be interesting to jump into it without comms.
It'd be horrible.
And just pinging, I guess, would be the only way to do it. But yeah, obviously, quite a different tactic set. Where I know when we play Apex, we like to wait and be very patient, whereas in this Arena's mode, it paid to be aggressive, or at least it seemed like it the first couple of games where we seemed to get swarmed suddenly by the other team, coming out of nowhere. But yeah, I think it's obviously something a bit different, and it does fit in the Apex Legends ecosystem. I think they've done an interesting job of obviously they've been inspired by CSGO and that kind of stuff, but then using that buying method of you having to pay for your guns and your powers as well, which I think was a big thing going in. Like, how is that going to work? Or are they just going to slowly increase over the game, like they do in the normal Battle Royale?
Yeah,
you can pay to have it unlocked straight away. I
was going to say, to clarify quickly, you buy an ability one use. So you buy one use of the ability, you can only use it. It doesn't recharge in that match. You have to wait. So you got to make sure when you use it, whatever it is, it was worth it.
Yeah, you only get your tactical. You only get 2 times, but you can buy more uses.
Yeah,
and you can pay for your ultimate. I think it's a good addition. Obviously, we got matches pretty quickly, so that's good. Obviously, it's easier to get 6 people together than it is to get 80. So I think if you don't want to play the Battle Royale mode, or you don't have, this is obviously something else, a different thing for you to jump into. Yeah, what did you think?
I liked it. I think the thing was, I was trying to think, tactics wise, because I think it is when you're playing Battle Royale in Apex or any sort of Battle Royale, there's always that fear that if you see an enemy team and you're like, oh, I only see one person, and you like jump on them, that not only could their two teammates just like get the upper hand on yous, but there could be another team there that both the teams don't know about, and they get the upper hand. So you kind of have to learn to play those Battle Royales, not super defensively, but at least like, let's just take a second and like,
cautious.
You gotta be a little cautious because there's, it's used versus however many other teams, and often the amount of times, annoyingly, they call it third partying. Is the hot term, like the amount of third partying that happens where you'll have a team fight, you'll win, another team will come in as user healing, kill you, and you'll win. So you always sort of got to be aware of these sorts of things. So, but then you hop into this game mode, it's like, hold on, we got to stop playing this like it's the Battle Royale mode. Like it's literally one other team, the first to kill one another wins. Like this is, you're not playing it like it's Call of Duty because Call of Duty respawn team deathmatch, but Buddy was saying we got to play this a bit more like Call of Duty, like just a bit more aggressively and stuff, and that seemed to work out for us by the end. It's quite interesting because I was thinking at first, would there be any characters that are particularly broken or this sort of stuff, and I did jump into playing Lifeline, which seemed quite useful because her passive. Well, that's the thing, like every character's passive obviously doesn't have a cooldown, or you have to buy the character's passive. That's the one thing you get for free, and they don't take that away. So Lifeline's passive and being able to auto revive people was super helpful, but I also didn't feel like it was, oh man, this character's broken as fuck. And especially because they took away her shield in the latest patch. So it was very much like, okay, my passive is I can heal people, but other characters have passives that help them deal more damage or get around. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, like as good as the heal is, I definitely didn't feel like Lifeline is a super broken character. I didn't feel like Gibby and his shield's like super broken. Maybe it just depends on your team comp as well. Like certain characters you can build a super aggressive as fuck team if you wanted, or just a more nimble team. I don't know. Like it's going to be interesting to see when they as more pros play this, I guess, and because they do say they're going to open ranked leagues for this eventually. It'll be interesting to see if people get into this as a more proper competitive level, what's considered the go-to characters for this mode, because each season of Apex as it stands, like Battle Royale mode, there's always the characters that everyone considers the best that season, and most of the time those characters end up getting nerfed the next season. It's usually how it happens. Like last season, Lifeline was quite a high pick, so was fuck, I'm mental blanking on her name. The lady that shoots herself up in the sky.
Valkyrie.
No, that's not the new one. The old one. Shoots down like a whirlwind on the ground. I can't remember.
Horizon.
Horizon, yeah. Horizon was also a very high pick because of like low her abilities and cooldowns and stuff. Octane as well, who they nerfed this season. So it'll just be interesting to see what the go-to sort of characters are for this mode. If it's different, like does this mode have a bunch of high pick? Like these characters are great for this mode, and then they have completely different characters that are high picks in Battle Royale. Because then when we come to season 10, I'm like, okay, well, if they're trying to balance, because this is the thing we're talking about, like if they're trying to balance between two modes now, how do they do that? Like how do they go? This character seems like they need to be nerfed for arena, but then if we nerf their abilities for that mode, it'll make them just really weak in Battle Royale. So like how do we meet in the middle? And I'm sure these are questions they've had at Respawn as they've discussed this mode and in development and these sorts of things, but just something you can't help but sort of wonder about how they're going to handle that going forward. But yeah, I think I was enjoying it. It was frustrating, but I was enjoying it. I definitely want to play more. I like how, especially, you jump on and your dailies are going to be like, all right, we're playing some Apex tonight. Daily say Battle Royale kills. Daily say a couple rounds of arena kills. Like you kind of just going to be forced to, if you want to follow that play path, to do a little bit of everything. Can't decide if I think I'd rather start my night with arena, to be honest, because it's more frustrating, and knock out some arena first, and then jump into Battle Royale rather than trying to end my session with some arena matches or something like that. So yeah, I was quite pleased with the way it's put together. I like the way they're only doing 2 maps, I think, at a time or whatever. They rotate the map every 15 minutes, so it's like you play a couple rounds on the same one, then it rotates to another map. Like you're not getting a random map out of 8. It's like you just everyone's playing the same map for that for that time period, which is how
Trying to get used to it,
yeah.
like after a couple of games, yeah.
Yeah, it's like how Battle Royale works too, where it's like no one's picking between different maps here. It's a couple of hours or whatever it is on the map, and it changes. So the other map sort of rotates between two maps as well. So, yeah, good addition. It'll be interesting to see how the general reaction or whatever. I know there was the Season 9 release, I think, and it must have been, I think it definitely has to be a lot to do with Arena. Like, I know Valkyrie was a character everyone was like super keen to try out. I think maybe a bunch of Titanfall fans might have jumped in for the first time because of their connection to Titanfall 2 and that sort of stuff. But like, Apex had its highest concurrent player count on Steam when it launched. So, or highest since launch or something like that, or something along those lines. Wow. So, a lot of people were very keen to jump into Season 9 and can't help but feel like that has to be a lot to do with Arena. Maybe a lot of people who are just like, I like playing Apex. I like the characters. I like the abilities. Fucking hate Battle Royales though. You know, like there has to be a lot of that, I think, where, okay, well, I can finally play a mode that, you know, like Kieran's in our chat watching the stream saying, oh, finally a game without all a game mode without all the random elements, all this sort of shit. So there has to be a lot of that, I reckon, for people jumping into it. The Four Corners report that aired on... Where's it air? ABC. Yeah, I forgot for a second. The ABC Four Corners report that was on early in the week has stirred up some trouble. So just to go over here, Alex Walker Kotaku writes, here's the official games industry report to the Four Corners report. Response to Four Corners report. Yesterday, as I'm writing, the ABC and Four Corners unveiled the investigation into the video game industry, squarely targeting microtransactions and loot boxes in particular, but the production of any lengthy report is always going to leave out some context and detail, and this morning representatives of the local game industry have tried to address that. The Interactive Games and Entertainment Association, IGEA, which represents game publishers and wider games industry in Canberra, posted a 5-paragraph statement on their website this morning. The CEO, Ron Curry, was the only representative of the games industry in the Four Corners report and website article, although the full video included footage and an interview with former mobile developer Torolf Jernstone, the developer famous for Let's Go whaling presentation on microtransactions. In IGEA's response, the group claimed the Four Corners story provided, quote, unbalanced views and implications and wasn't reflective of the positive experience millions of Australians have with video games today. It also said, quote, all major platforms, end quote, have controls to limit spending and games access to payment systems, including the ability to disable in-game purchases entirely. There was a couple of other articles posted I saw throughout the week from people not happy with the report, writing about how it was bad journalism, bad representation of gamers, this sort of thing. Twitter was very sort of up in the air for that first 24, 48 hours after the report dropped, of people not being particularly too happy watching it or having mixed feelings about it. It was certainly a talking point there for a while. I've watched it. Did you watch it? Did you get around to watching it? Sure.
Yeah, I watched it just before this.
I sure hope so. So give me your take. What did you think on watching the full Four Corners report?
Obviously, there was a bit of a bias going into it. Clearly, they wanted to point out the worst of the gaming industry. I think it was kind of cringy at moments. Just like it was definitely a put together piece. You know, it's like one of those reports where you feel like maybe they're being fed lines and that kind of stuff, like, or they're being kind of directed to a certain degree. And then, yeah, they were kind of inconsistent with their messaging and like what they wanted to talk about. And, you know, to top it off, they picked a lot of their choice of game footage was questionable at times, I think, was the other thing that would have riled players up. Including talking about microtransactions and including a bunch of games that don't have microtransactions. Specifically, Animal Crossing.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
Which, it's like, this game doesn't have any microtransactions.
They're showing people buying items from the shop and that, and I'm like...
Yeah, but you earn those in-game.
That's in-game money that is in-game money, not real world kind of funny. So yeah, that's great. I didn't mind it, to be honest. Like I agree with everything you're saying. It was as cringe, but it was as cringy as I thought it would be at times, being a Four Corners report. Not saying I watch everything that's every Four Corners episode, but I've seen Four Corners before. I knew kind of what I was going in, like production wise and just general the way they do things, you know, like the way they shoot sort of things and that sort of stuff. So all that sort of made sense. And there was a few parts like the Animal Crossing bit. The other part that just made me laugh out loud kind of was there was a dude on there. He's like, you know, there was a time there where I spent like a day or two doing nothing but collecting feathers in Assassin's Creed. And for what? For what? I got nothing. 'Cause all I wanted to do was pause and go, you know what you got, mate? You got the same thing I did. Platinum trophy. Ding! This motherfucker's complaining about spending a day or two getting collectibles. I'm like, I did that too.
Yeah.
I did that on my day off too. I got all the feathers. Platinum trophy. I'm surprised I didn't have anyone in this go, they should have had me on. I've spent hours of my life doing nothing but collecting collectibles and trying to get trophies. And what do they mean?
What do they mean?
Everything.
Top score, bitch.
So, like, some of that stuff was, I just completely silly, and I felt like it was out of context. Like, some guy being like, to me, the focus on everything about microtransactions and loot boxes in this was all sort of spot on, in my opinion. I feel like a lot of it's sort of inarguable. Some of the stuff is a grey area. You can sort of go one way or the other. There's a lot of inarguable stuff, like a lot of the stuff. But when it came to the other bits, like why is there Animal Crossing here? Why are they talking about Assassin's Creed? Like I don't know how.
That would be fine, but they paint it as if every single game has microtransactions in it, when that's not the case.
No. Yeah, it's just it's the way it was. Yeah,
it's like every single game is doing these evil things.
Yeah,
is the way they painted it.
It just and tying in that like Assassin's Creed feather thing doesn't really help, because then it just, for people who don't play games watching this, they think they're like, well, this game must have them too. It's like, well, I don't understand what this guy's story had to relate to, because they were trying to tie in a bunch of elements. Well, because originally the story was going to be about like video game addiction apparently, and then everyone sort of complained and they swung it more into being about microtransactions and this sort of stuff. But when you see a dude on there going, I spent 2 days of my life collecting feathers, that makes me go, that's from the original notes about video game addiction. When you see the story about the lady wasting away $4,000 playing that mobile game, that also feels like it was potentially about mobile game addiction and then swung into, we'll just swing it into loot boxes. When you see that child psychiatrist...
Well, they wanted to make it... It's easier to say, hey, I lost this amount of money, or I spent this amount of money. That's something people can relate to. Is it a much grabbier like news story, I think. That's why probably they lean towards the microtransaction element. I mean, both are like legitimate issues to a certain degree. I think there is definitely obviously a part of the community that is addicted to playing video games, but is that because they're video games, or they just have that kind of a personality and have us susceptible to that?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If you read any of those reports, often when people look into it, they say video game addiction, like people can become addicted to video games, but it's not because the games they're playing, or at least in a lot of these cases, it's not because the games they're playing is actually addicting. It's because they've got something else going on in their head, and video games is just the thing that's filling it. It could have been something else. Like for adults, it can be actual gambling. It can be fucking alcohol. It could be any number of things. But
yeah, do you say that, you know, some people have one addiction and then just replace it with something else?
Yes.
It's like they get super involved, super invested in one thing.
Yeah. So that's why,
like religion or charity or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. So that's why when people bring up video game addiction, people get sort of hot about it, and that's when the whole like who thing, you know, was it? Yeah, like saying it was
World Health Organization,
which was like what, 3 years ago now, or whenever it was, I can't even remember.
Yeah,
them saying video game addiction is not a thing. That was a whole. Oh no, trying to say it is a thing. That is a whole.
Yes,
that was a hot topic because people were like, well, it's not really a thing, but they were trying to say it is. You know,
I think that was mostly a case of making it a thing so people could get help easier.
Yeah.
even though it is not.
But it's like,
necessarily
how do you
the
go to a
actual-
doctor and say, I'm addicted to video games? And the worry was, you go into a doctor and say, my son's addicted to video games. They go, well, stop playing video games. And they're not looking for the actual root of the problem because they're just going, we'll stop playing video games. That's what people's worry is. And that's why people consider it sort of dangerous, whatever, evaluation or medical advice or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, this thing was kind of a bit all over the place, I would say. But I do think the majority of it was pretty much, I would say 70% of it.
They had valid points.
I would say 70% had valid points. Like, just throwing a number off the top of my head. Like, 40 minutes, 40 something minutes, I'd say 70% of that was kind of valid. All of the stuff about loot boxes, microtransactions, I thought was pretty good and hard for people to argue about. And look, I think the thing that some people may not like about that stuff is it does paint all that stuff does paint the video game industry in a negative light, and that's because, yeah, it is. Like, that is a negative side of the video game industry. As much as you may want to ignore it and pretend it's not a thing, or maybe pretend it's not that bad or whatever, that's a thing. Like, that's a
just because you aren't susceptible to spending all your money on that doesn't mean there isn't a small portion of the audience that is.
Yes. Yeah. Like, it's, and I like the way they showed different sorts of sort of things about it. Like, I even liked, so they had that one kid early on who's like playing Roblox, and I thought it was such a line to explain how, like, but the way influencers and YouTubers can work on kids' minds, where this kid is showing the reporter or whatever, hey, I want this Roblox costume. And it's worth like hundreds of dollars or whatever, Australian dollars, real world money or whatever it is. And she goes, why do you want this one? And his response is simply, because the YouTuber I watch likes it, or has got it, and it looks cool. Now he wants it.
But isn't that the case with anything?
No, but like,
why do you want those pair of shoes?
Yeah, I know, but it's just like, I get, like, this is, but I think this is what leads to where because it's a video game, and because this is where you see those cases where kids steal their parents' credit cards and they buy stuff because they never see like the cash disappear from one hand to another. Like, it's just like that weird, like, that psychological thing where they don't realize the money, you know what I mean? Like, and they just, it's a costume or whatever. So, I don't know, that was like one thing. And then like on the other end, they had that lady towards the end who spent that $4,000 and whatever dollars on that game I've never heard of in my life. But, and that's how a lot of people do it. Like, her story sounds like any of the other ones I've read that have been pretty bad over the years, where someone gets hooked in one of these. I think it was like a gacha game of some sort, like one of those sort of. That's what it sounded like to me. I can't remember what it's called. I didn't look it up, but it sounded like one of those fucking gacha games or similar sort of things. It was a China game. It's fucking. They're all gacha games, aren't they? It's fucking mobile games.
Yeah, a lot of
them are, yeah. Look, I don't hate all Chinese games. You know what game I do like from there? Your boy Fist. Put some fucking microtransactions in there. Not happening.
No.
Spend $4,000, and that part where she's like, I didn't realize I was spending all that money, and then she scrolled back or whatever. And that's how most people do it though. Like, it's just, $10 today, and then next day it's $10, and then next day it's $10, next day, and because you can spend it so easy, and you don't really notice it piling up and this sort of thing, and they just keep trickling it out and just tricking you, and then the more they spend, and like, I know it sounds conspiracy theory, that part where the dude's like, these games are built to be like, if you're spending more money, they'll realize you're spending more money and try and like warp the game in a way that'll like reward you, but then like pull you back. It's like, of course they do. Like, you know, like the guy is talking about machine learning and stuff. It's like, it all sounds like it's like a big conspiracy theory type thing to be like, oh, this game's got machine learning, and it's, you know, it'll tailor itself to how much you're spending to try and get you to spend more and reward you more and this sort of thing to keep you hooked or whatever. They had an interview of that dude who did like that TED talk that wasn't a TED talk to the pissed off a bunch of games people apparently. Like that thing was.
Can I just say that was the oddest footage that they used for that?
Yeah, of the dude watching it.
Ripped a stream of somebody watching it. Yeah,
I don't know why. I think it's just because they wanted his reaction of being angry about it as a gamer, getting angry about it.
But then they cut footage of people being upset about it.
Yeah, I don't.
It's weird.
I don't.
I think it was just poorly presented overall.
By the way, I forgot to say that Assassin's Creed thing, my favorite part of the show. Shout out to PowerPix. They put his guide video on the screen. And shout out to Captain Sterling was also in this, so shout out to them.
Yeah.
So the spending $4,000 there, that's kind of fucked up. But yeah, some of the examples they give, like they sort of.
You know what was really messed up actually?
Yeah.
The child psychiatrist talking about how he got addicted to playing Pokemon Go.
I related.
And they made him play Pokemon Go so they could get footage of him playing Pokemon
yeah.
Go.
You're an alcoholic. You're an alcoholic. It's like what they was doing to fucking Jeff Hardy in WWE. Yeah, that was kind of weird. Although that part where, see, again, that felt like it came from the video game addiction story or whatever. And I swear people may be watching it. Like, you can't look, I totally understood that part because I was like, I stopped playing Pokemon Go there at one stage where I'm like, this game feels like I get it to a degree because I've said before, like, I definitely was like somewhat addicted to League. I get it. My video game addiction always comes from either completionist things and it feels bad to say video game addiction because I've never like gone down the rabbit hole that far because I always be like, I've had enough of this now. Like I can tell it's like sort of it's ruling my life a little bit too much, so I kind of jump off it sort of thing. But apart from trophies,
your shirts would say different.
Yeah, apart from trophies. So the best thing about trophies is that you chase one, it hooks you for a while, you get the platinum, you unhook that syringe, like you pull the syringe out.
Yeah.
Take a little bit of a break, got to get another platinum. And every now and then I'm like, fuck, I need a hit, so I buy a Ratchetalica game. Fucking do my Snowmaker game.
So you're not telling people that you aren't addicted.
But like
word usage like that, yeah.
But like I've talked about League here briefly and like how like chasing wins and that was keeping me up at all hours of the night, just sort of chasing those wins. And I've had that thing of like Pokemon Go where like because each day, like what he was saying about, I was trying to stop playing, but then they added something that I really needed. And that's what that game does, where it's like, oh man, I won't play it, but then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you can get this shiny Pokemon and these eggs now. Or, like there's always like sort of like every week there seems to be a new event or something. They always want you to keep playing and whatever else. So, and the game always basically seems like you have to be playing it as a fucking full-time job, and that's why it gave me the shits.
It's a real disadvantage to this game that makes you walk outside. It makes you walk outside all the time.
I mean, there is a point. Like, if you're having to... If you feel like you have to be constantly have the game open to be catching the Pokemon around you because there's a chance that one could be a shiny because there's a current event Pokemon, and then you're having your phone open fucking 24/7 all day trying to catch this Pokemon, it's like, fuck's sake. Like, or it's like, oh, you need to complete your daily tasks every day because if you complete them all for 7 days in a row, you can get this special shiny box or something. Like, I didn't like it when it becomes feeling like a job. And so I kind of got what he was talking about in that segment. That's for sure, because that's what kind of turned me off Pokemon before. And if I ever feel like that again, that's when I'll take my fucking break again. I'll be like, all right, I'm done with Pokemon Go again. See you later. There's definitely a lot of elements in this report that I can like pseudo relate to. I mean, and again, when it comes to microtransactions, like they bring up things like Apex. They showed Apex in this, for example, and we play a lot of Apex. We just talked about Apex.
Yeah.
So here's my thing with Apex. I don't think any game... I don't know. I really don't feel like any game with microtransactions should allow you to spend a huge amount of money on just pools of cash. Like, I just don't like seeing those big numbers. I just don't like them. I just don't think they... Like, there's no reason to buy those huge, like, $100, $200 cash pools packs other than like the only stuff that's buying you is if you're just going to sit there buying loot boxes. There's nothing in the store that you need that much money for, is basically my point. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, what's the most expensive skin or whatever you can buy in Apex is probably going to cost you like $30 worth of Apex coins. So to spend 120 or 130, whatever the max is, like that's just overkill. But they have it there so that if you're susceptible to wanting to spend that, you have the option and you'll do it. You know? Whereas I feel like if the maximum was $30, $40, the max that someone could ever be like, nah, fuck it, I'll just buy the max today and max out my account. So I've got the credits on here. They'll just spend the 30, 40.
Yeah, but you can just buy it multiple times.
Yeah, I know. I just think it's like a psychological thing where some people are more susceptible, and they can't talk about this as well, where it's like some people are more susceptible to being like, oh, well, I'll just spend I'll just stock my account up. I'll spend, what's the max? $130? I'll just get $130 worth of credits per week kind of thing. So I don't really feel like any game should have that high amount. So that's my, but for the most part, I think Apex is, and I know, maybe we're talking out of ours because obviously we like Apex, so maybe I'm sort of protecting it, but I honestly feel like Apex is one of the better microtransaction type games. Like it has a good battle pass every year, every season. We buy the battle pass. Well, I know I buy the battle pass every season. That's $15 or whatever it is. I don't buy any loot boxes in that game because I don't feel like I need to. You just unlock stuff for playing. I've never had to buy any stuff. I don't feel like it has exuberant price skins. Like it doesn't have any $100 plus skins in comparison to when they talk about Valorant, and it's $100 plus, and Counter-Strike's the same, where they've got these ridiculously priced gun skins where it's just like, that's disgusting. Like it really should not cost that much. I don't understand. Like I can't buy into that. Like I can accept to a degree free to play game, they got to make money somehow, and that's why I'm sort of like I'm not fully against microtransactions because of that, because I understand. I think that it's a, in premise, I think microtransactions can be a acceptable practice as long as it's not trying to be malicious and target people or whatever. Like I think that's fine. I think selling skins and that sort of stuff is fine if done correctly. I even think loot boxes could stay around and they can be fine if done correctly in certain games, as long as they're as we were talking about that way. I think all loot boxes should show that percentage, odd chances. And, you shouldn't be able to spend $100, $200 on them. Maybe they should limit the amount you can buy, these sorts of things, so they're not actually turn into full gambling mechanisms. Like, I think there's ways to do these things safely, correctly, better. So, yeah, I definitely didn't walk away from this Four Corners report feeling like I learnt too much more than I already knew. I didn't feel like it was super negative on the games industry, more so, especially because I said I feel like 70% of it is targeting a thing that deserves a negative eye on it, which is microtransactions and stuff. Like, so I didn't think it was the big black cloud that a lot of people on Twitter. Yeah. What are your overall thoughts though? Like walking away from it, you're like this.
I think it was kind of clumsily put together. I don't think it was well. It did. Their message was muddled, and they didn't. I don't think they put it well in a way that was super engaging. Starting off with people playing games and the industry is making so much money and that kind of thing. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's just weird. It
was weirdly put together.
That's them doing the whole, because it's obviously, this is Four Corners, it's tagged at my Nana Pop at home, I guess, or, like that sort of thing.
There's a certain amount of fear-mongering in there as well, I think. Rightly or not.
I'm not trying to stick up for them, but I feel like they do that for every topic they cover. Though. It's like fear-mongering. How do we do it? Fear-mongering.
Yeah.
So, look.
I mean, the other thing that made me laugh was the the segment where the child psychiatrist is showing the people, his students, video games. One, as if they'd never played video games before.
Well,
and two, they choose Mario Kart.
What's a Mario?
They play Mario Kart. I don't think anybody is addicted to Mario Kart. Even if they are, I mean, it's not too bad of a game to be addicted to. There's not money. There's only a small segment of DLC in it.
Yeah.
So
there's definitely some things where I don't get the correlation between. I'm trying to explain to you how some people get addicted to video games, so I'm going to show you Mario Kart, just so you understand what a game is. And then what? Yeah. They shut off the Switch and they go, so you can see how people get addicted
now
to this.
You know how to fix these children.
Yeah.
Now you can relate to these children.
You'd have to, it doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's harder to play Fortnite, but really you would have to, if you want a general example, if you was to ask me, it'd be like, show people what Fortnite is. Show them all the emotes and skins.
Minecraft, Roblox.
All that, all that sort of stuff. Because all the kids want are the cool skins and the cool emotes. That's like the highest selling thing, right? Not fucking Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a really weird example. So, yeah, I don't know. I agree though. It wasn't a great report. I just don't think it was in general.
The information was not wrong.
Yeah, I feel like for the most part the information
the facts were correct.
Yeah, is
what you're saying.
Yeah, it was just a general. I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't watch. This is why I don't watch Four Corners, because their reporting isn't particularly great in my opinion. So, like if Last Week Tonight did an episode on this same topic, it'd be done better. Is my point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
Like it would just be done.
It'd be jokes.
It would be jokes.
It would be engaging.
Less fear mongering. All that, like all this stuff we're saying, it would be done better. So,
I mean, I was surprised it hasn't been, or there might have been already.
I don't think there was. John
Oliver, please.
If Old Mate still had his show on Netflix, he never did one, did he? He did one on Gamergate or whatever.
No, I don't think. Yeah, I think it was. I don't think he did one.
No. Yeah.
Old.
I'm trying to remember his name.
Hassan Minaj.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Patreon act. Yeah. Rip.
So sad. All right. That'll do it for this week's show. Let's know any comments, questions, concerns, what you thought about the Four Corners report if you've watched it. Tweeting at us, Discord. Twitter is explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. They'll lead you to all our Twitters. Discord, you can find it by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Discord. If you liked the episode and thought it was worth $1, or you would like to support us by buying a shirt, or something, head on over to explosionnetwork.com/support us. Until next week, same time, same couch. Bye. Hey, don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at explosionnetwork.com, and please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to explosionnetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.